everyone, welcome back to the Face Off Figures channel. I'm Thatch. Today we are going to be looking at the Fantastic Four First Steps movie figures. Just the ones seen here. I will not be covering the Silver Surfer or the non-Flame Dawn Johnny Storm figure. I will just be reviewing Human Torch and the other three members here. And so yeah, I'm going to be reviewing each figure individually and comparing them to each other, as well as a couple of things at the end. Now, I'm absolutely thrilled and super excited for this movie because I have been a massive Fantastic Four fan my whole life. Ever since I was little, I grew up, I watched the Fantastic Four in the various animated appearances they've had, and then I also watched the original Tim Story films quite a bit as a kid, and then since then I read the Ultimate comics, and I did a lot of history searching as I got older, and I just really love Fantastic Four. I think they really represent a lot of what makes Marvel Marvel. I love Jack Kirby and his influence on them. I love how personal they are, and I've always had quite a big connection to them. Now, they have had a unfortunate time throughout the 2010s. The film adaptation was really terrible, the 2015 one, and Marvel tried to distance the brand, actually canceled the Fantastic Four for a minute and tried to sort of separate themselves from the Fantastic Four because they didn't own the rights to them cinematically. So we really didn't get very much Fantastic Four content via whether it's merch or movies or shows or even comics during the 2010s, which was really unfortunate because that's when I was a teenager. That's really when I was coming into my fandom. And they were just one of those characters from my childhood that never really got the time of day. So I have been just absolutely loving this moment and this pop culture moment in time where we are getting so much Fantastic Four merchandise and marketing. And this adaptation I feel really good about. I think they've really nailed it. For years, I would talk to my friends about setting the movie in the 60s and embracing the space race essence of the characters and that optimism. And I'm just really thrilled with what they've done with the marketing, the production design, everything. The casting took a little bit of getting used to, but now that I've seen each of the performers in the various trailers and clips, I mean, I'm feeling really good about each of them. And first reactions to this movie just came out recently, and they're looking positive. But, you know, knock on wood, because the Fantastic Four has had a rough go when it comes to adaptations, and this is really our last shot. So, as a huge Fantastic Four fan, I'm thrilled to have these figures, and I'm really excited to review them for you. I'm going to go over each of them individually first, and the first one I'm going to start with is, of course, Reed Richards. So here we have the Pedro Pascal Reed Richards figure. He actually comes with a lot more, some of the most accessories of the whole wave. Surprisingly, you wouldn't guess. Yeah, here he is. I like to start with Reed because I think he's obviously the father of the Fantastic Four. You know, he is the scientist. He is the superhero leader. Maybe not the familial, emotional leader. Of course, that's more of Sue Storm's front. But when it comes to missions and defeating foes, Reed is frequently the leader, and a hugely important Marvel character. I think also a very underappreciated Marvel character. I've always loved Reed Richards since I was a kid. I always really kind of connected to the characters that were a little bit more quiet, intellectual, but a little bit more not as social or bombastic. And I think I've always really gravitated towards Reed because of that. But what do we think of this figure, right? So one of the things that a lot of people talked about when these figures were first revealed was the likenesses. It seems to be, you know, more contentious than I think I expected. People have a lot of opinions about some of them. To me personally, I always was sort of 70% on the Pedro likeness here. I thought it was pretty close. I don't think it was excellent or anything, but I thought it was pretty decent. And now having it in person, I'm actually a lot more fond of it than even then. I think it's really solid. Now his eyes are kind of being hidden by my lighting here, but I think it's great. I think the hair could probably be a little bit wider. I think his head sort of gets a little too thin at the top and the forehead, but overall, I mean, that's Pedro, man. That's a really great, solid likeness to me. And so I think that works. I think a lot of their likenesses look better in person from what I've seen. I do not, again, have the civilian Johnny Storm figure, so I can't speak to his. But yeah. Now, I'm going to go over articulation real quick. You'll notice first, before I do that, actually, the sculpt on these guys is actually unique to each figure. They each have a unique torso sculpt. Johnny and Reed do not reuse the same body, contrary to think what a lot of people thought. So yeah, Reed gets his own unique body sculpt. No one else uses this. And I think that's really cool. Really helps give them their own defined traits. It's actually one of my favorite things in the movie is this costume design. I think it's wonderful. I love when Marvel in the movies does something different, a different art direction and style for their costumes. Things like the first Iron Man costume or even the first Ant-Man costume, which was way different than a lot of Marvel costumes at the time. And I think they've really gone and embraced that with the Fantastic Four. And I also really like that each member of the Fantastic Four has their own sort of traits. You know, you can see how he doesn't have the white collar, his boots are a bit different, and I really like that. Even the patterning on the costume, the texturing is different on each figure. And I think that really helps to give them a really satisfying uniform look where they all go together well, but at the same time it gives them really unique character traits so that their costume each kind of has its own essence to it. And of course this is a very classic Jack Kirby style white and blue costume, and I think I love that so much. Obviously there's the 4 logo there, but yeah, it's a solid sculpt. I think it really captures the look from the movie. I think the blue color they went with is really perfect. The blue is hard. Sometimes it looks really bright in the movie. Sometimes it looks kind of deep and royal. But from what I can tell, this is a really good middle ground, and it's not toyish. It's not unappealing. It looks great. And many of the little details are painted, like the little silver on the boots there. Even under the feet, they painted the black stripe going all the way around his foot there, which is really interesting and cool. Now he has, like I said, more accessories than a lot of them. Now the accessories are not crazy pretty much for this whole line. That's a huge issue with MCU figures in general. But the biggest thing, the first things he comes with are swappable hands. Well, there's a tease at what's coming. Swappable hands, so he comes with fisted hands, and also this communicator that alerts them also comes off, which is nice because in the movie they're all on this arm. And then on the figures, for some reason, they're on a couple of the other arms. And I don't know. They're on the left arm. I don't know why, but they are. But I just oriented them the way they're in the movie, which is on the right arm. But yeah, so he's got fists, which is nice. I do have I'm a little iffy on the fists, and I'll explain that in a second. But they're really not the star show here of this Reed figure. That's not why anyone is getting this Reed, to have him with the fisted hands. It's the bendable, stretchy arms. That's really the appeal of this figure, and pretty much any good Reed Richards figure. And also, this is the first time we've had proper bendy arms on a Reed Richards since the Walgreens exclusive, which is kind of nuts to me. But these were really hotly anticipated for me particularly. I had a Reed Richards figure growing up that came with a Thing figure. It was a raging Thing figure, and it's the scene in the movie where Reed wraps himself around, this is from the Tim Story movie, wraps himself around Thing to calm him down, and Thing kind of freaks out. It was a figure about that, so it came with a solid articulated Thing figure, and then it came with a bendy, stretchable Reed figure that was almost entirely bendable, stretchy goo. And at some point, I guess I stretched him too far, and he ripped in half in my toy box, and he leaked this goo, this ooze, leaked out of him, and it ended up crystallizing and ruining most of my toys and my toolbox. And that is something that my parents still give me shit about to this day, is that I ripped a Reed Richards in half and his insides ruined my toy box and my toys. So yeah, but it's really fun and nostalgic to come and get a bendy wire Reed for the first time. This is the first one. I never got the Walgreens one, so I never really had that. But I was so happy about this, and I've honestly had hours and hours of fun with these very simplistic bendy arms. You can't do a lot with them. They are, if you want to understand the tension and like how they feel, they remind me a lot of the Doc Ock No Way Home arms, the movie Doc Ock, the Spider-Man 2 Doc Ock, where they are really stiff. So they're really sturdy and they really hold their shape well, but they're not gonna, they're not super. You can't like do 6 different bends or twists, once, it takes a lot of effort. So, and you can kind of wear them down. I've certainly worn mine down a little bit. Also, you'll notice there's this cut right here. That's not a bicep swivel. That is there because this is plastic and this is bendy wire rubber. And so the pieces are joined here. And so that's actually glued. And now I've seen people crack it and try to use it as a bicep swivel. The issue is the peg in here is asymmetrical because it's meant to be slotted and glued, not meant to rotate. So the more you rotate that after you break that initial glue seal, you're actually going to stress out the interior peg here, the receiving, like that hole. Again, because it's not a cylinder going into a cylinder receiver, it is a asymmetrical peg going into an asymmetrical hole. So the more you spin it, the looser that's going to get. And considering these arms are already heavy and they've got the wire in them because of that, you know, they're heavy because of the wire and the rubber, I fear that would become fairly loose fairly quickly if you were to let it if you were to snap it and try and use it as a bicep swivel. But you can do whatever you want with your figure. And again, I don't have confirmation that that's what would happen. I just have fears and from what I've seen. So I have not been using it, and I've been kind of been able to work around it. But yeah, again, the arms are kind of stiff. They're you know, a little, they have like some resistance there, but they do hold their shape really well and they look really good. And when you get them into a good pose, they're awesome, and I love them. I'm so happy to have a Reed with bendy arms. It's really important thing for me with the Fantastic Four series of figures is that they have some sort of accessory or their design or their sculpt really showcases their unique power. It's not them like in a neutral, non-powered state, but them using their powers. That's something to me that's really important about Fantastic Four figures, that there is an accessory or something, or the figure itself that showcases the power really well. And so that's why Reed, you know, it's really lame to get a Reed with the long fingers or no stretching powers, because it's like, well, that's just a guy, you know. So yeah, apologies for the awkward edit. I forgot to record Reed Richards articulation. So I'm just gonna slot this in here after the fact and then abruptly cut back to the old recording. Anyway, real quick, so the head looks up pretty damn far. That's really good. Looks down, pretty good. Pretty decent, pretty solid, right? That works. Side to side, a little bit of pivot. That's really nice. It's really good. You can make it the Pedro pivot. And then he's got a diaphragm, which works okay. It goes forward a little bit, not very far at all, honestly. Like that much there to there. And then side to side is okay. Back is also okay. Then it does rotate, and then you get a belt cut there, a waist swivel, which works, but again, not entirely useful when you have this up here. But again, you can kind of combine them and kind of make a little bit more natural flow. But he also has the ball joint shoulders, which go up that far, pretty good. And then he has bicep swivel, and then he has double jointed elbow, which is ridiculously good. Like kind of all of these figures, like that's insane, almost looks unnatural. And again, you can kind of get away with just using this one. That's kind of good enough. You don't really need that top one. And he obviously has a hinge on the wrist and a rotation. The legs kick forward. Pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty standard. Probably could kick forward more. They go out. Pretty good. He's got a hip cut, of course. He's got double jointed legs, which work pretty good. Again, I recommend articulating the bottom one first and then the top one so you can get the most range of motion, because if you do it the other way, you get less. And then again, no boot cut, which is really unfortunate because he's got these stupid ankle rockers that rotate way too far forward, which make his stances look a little weird. And he also does have the forward and back, which work really well. Almost makes up for the annoying lack of a boot cut with the annoying ankle rocker that goes kind of rotates a little too far forward versus a direct side-to-side pivot. But yeah, very standard articulation. Not a whole lot special here. Most of it functions the way you want, except perhaps the torso, which is a little limited. Happy to have that, and I think they work pretty good. Now my note on the fists was, I wish that the fists were not normal size. I actually wish these hands popped out and they had large fisted hands that popped in. That would really give you more fun poses to do with these bendy wire arms if I could replace it with like a big fist or something like that. I'd rather have a big fist for this than for this, to be completely honest, because I'm never going to imagine Reed fighting fisticuffs without his stretchy abilities. That's not very Reed Richards. So overall, the Reed figure is really fun to me. Here we have Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, the resident hothead, kind of sort of rebel. Oh God, I rebel. The sort of like rebel, unpredictable loose cannon of the squad. This is Human Torch version, not Johnny Storm version. Again, I don't have that iteration. Again, to me, I would rather have a fired up Johnny Storm than a non-fired up Johnny Storm. Obviously, getting both would be great, but that's not. Sometimes you need to budget these things and pick one. And to me, this was the obvious answer. This figure's really solid. I mean, just a great execution of a Human Torch figure. You can tell they've learned a lot of lessons from previous Human Torches, and I have the previous transparent Human Torch figure, and it's like so cool to see them just get better at it. He's fully translucent, orange plastic. It's a great orange. It reminds me of like the Lego like neon orange red color, but it's really vibrant. It really takes light really well. It's a fully unique sculpt to him. It is shared, obviously, with the unpowered Johnny Storm, but that makes complete sense. Of course it would be. It's the same guy. There are unique pieces, like this fire pieces. All the fire pieces are unique. The hands are new and unique. The feet are unique. And the head is obviously unique. Now, the face, I believe, is reused. From what I've seen, they just put a different hairpiece on it, which is this fire hairpiece. But still, I mean, I think this is a really great, really appealing looking Human. I mean, Human Torch just kind of has one of those raw, fun, cool, like, character designs. I think when you're a kid, I think it's just like, you naturally sort of get drawn to this because it's so cool, so metal, just a dude on fire. But yeah, you can really see here a lot of really great detail, and again, just the way that it like takes the light to me is like fantastic. And there's some flame variants on the fire here where it starts a little bit more orange and it goes a little bit more red, or I guess yellow to orange and red. Same thing for this back piece here. Same thing on the arms, same transitionary effect. Not on the legs though. The legs are just one color. So that's a bit of a bummer because this effect looks utterly fantastic to me. I mean, it's amazing. But yeah. And then, of course, one of the great design decisions of this movie was giving the Fantastic Four those lines on the costumes, those like sweater knit lines, because it inherently bakes into Torch the lines from the comics. And those are also painted. Those are black here on the front. There's a little bit. It's hard to see. A little bit on the shoulder, too, here. Actually, I should probably go back to being zoomed in so you can really see. Yeah, a little bit on the shoulder here. Definitely the chest. And then on the face as well. It's very subtle. But I think I really like the effect. Oh, and also on the calves here. They did put a little bit of a black wash there. I understand the effect is subtle, so it's not going to draw your attention to it. Certainly not as much as it does in the comic books. But I really don't mind that it's subtle because it's not distracting either. You know, it's just sort of becomes part of the texture of the figure. So yeah, he only comes with 2 accessories, and they are okay. He comes with these, like, karate chopping flying hands. I have not really used them that much. I just don't like these. I've never been a fan of this flight trope with the, like, paddle hands, you know? Like, whenever the Superman figures come with it, I'm always like, I don't know. I like the fists for the flying, you know? But, you know, they look cool. It wraps all around the interior, which is nice. I know there are posters of him, like, up in the air flying, you know, which is cool. But I just doesn't really, I don't know. They're not my favorite kind of hand sculpt. I just don't really use them that much. But they are well executed. And I think this whole figure is really well executed. I'm a huge fan. I love that the 4 logo is still prominent on him versus just being lines or sort of implied. And I also think that he could work really well for a comic Human Torch, to be completely honest with you. He's honestly better than the traditional comic Human Torch anyway. I think this guy would work totally fine in your comic collection. So, yeah, great figure overall. I think they really executed this super well. I don't really have too many complaints. The articulation is a little gummy. But aside from that, it should be fine. I'm going to go into articulation real quick here for you. The head looks down that far. The head looks up that far, which is pretty good for those flying poses. Diaphragm joint works fine. It works well side to side and backs, which is nice, so you can arch him. It doesn't really go forward that much, which is a big disappointment. Does have a waist swivel, which is, again, okay, kind of unnecessary when you have this, but you can, if you don't want to break the sculpt up too much, you can do stuff like that to kind of make that like transition a little bit better. He does have shoulder joints, no butterflies or anything. They work okay. Mine's a little gummy here. That's kind of the drawback with this transparent plastic. Bicep swivel. He does have double jointed elbows, which works super well. Hasbro's just really cracked how to do a double jointed elbow. They've just completely figured it out. I mean, this is almost egregious. You don't even really need it. You can get past 90 with just the single elbow. Very much like the movie Spider-Man figure. Like that's really like, that's just one joint being used and it can already do that. So pretty cool. It does have a thing where if you bend it wrong, you can kind of see the joint a little bit. It kind of pops out, but like here, you know what I'm saying? But again, because he's transparent, it's harder to notice on him. He has hinges on the hands. Again, that's really gummy. They don't really work on mine, to be perfectly honest with you. They kind of work on these ones, but they don't really work on these ones. But they're supposed to be there. And then the legs, they kick forward an okay amount, pretty much as you need there. They kick out really far. That's really nice to have. Waist swivel, obviously. And then he has the double jointed knee. This is one of those cases where you want to probably articulate this one all the way up first and then this one because you can get the most bend. Because if you do it like this, it's kind of gets stuck there. So that works pretty good. And then no boot cut, which is unfortunate because he does have boots. And the boot cut is way more helpful than people give it credit for helping the standing. And then he does have hinge that goes pretty far down. Pretty okay up. That's pretty good. And then a rocker, which is annoying because it rotates forward a little bit, which is obviously going to make the posing a little awkward depending on how you do it. But yeah, pretty solid. I mean, really straightforward articulation. So overall, I think this is a very, very good Human Torch figure, and it's probably the best Human Torch figure we've ever gotten. All right, here we have Vanessa Kirby Sue Storm. This figure is okay. I think she's really brought up by the fact that the body sculpt is really strong. It looks really good. The proportions are great. They just really captured her silhouette from the movie really well. And there's no awkward stance. There's no awkward. Sometimes these female figures have really weird proportions, or their shoulders are too high, or their neck is leaning too far forward, or just weirdness like that. Nope, we have a very naturalistic sculpt here. Now I should note, my friend Tyler, his had a boot that was a little lower than the other boot. And it was like there was a gap there and it made her stand like this. I don't know how regular that is on a Sue Storm figure, but mine doesn't have it. But just to let you know, it's a bit of a red flag. Her body looks great, just like all the other figures. Her costume is arguably the most comics accurate. It's the most straight up comics to screen. She's got the neck collar, which I really like that they turned it into just like a feminine turtleneck, almost scarf thing. I think that really works. She's got the boots, she's got the gloves, the belt. You know, very, very solid. She's got her own little details here on her suit, which of course separate it. The patterning here is also unique, almost like jeans, the way that it's organized here. And her boots are much more like feminine boots than the other guys, which are more like taller. They like go higher on the leg. But yeah, this figure looks pretty solid. Now, I've heard a lot of people have a lot of opinions on the Vanessa Kirby likeness here. And me personally, the first time I saw it, I thought it was like one of the better likenesses in the wave. And then the more I sat with it, I think it's the only one that hasn't improved at all since I saw it. Not that it's gotten worse, but it's not like gotten much better. So it looks okay from certain angles. It looks a little weird. Like, I think probably from like this angle, that doesn't really look like her. From the front, it looks pretty good. The open mouth also kind of hurts it. I think it looks decent. It's just good enough to work as Vanessa Kirby, but it's certainly not as good as the Pedro likeness, in my humble opinion, which is crazy because, again, initially I thought differently. But, you know, it works. Now, I also think one of the drawbacks of this figure is her accessories are the worst in the wave, and that's just because they really struggle to do good Sue Storm accessories, because she turns invisible, obviously. But she comes with alternate hands, so she comes with basically you have two fisted hands, but one is a gripping hand for some reason, which is really, really annoying to me because there's nothing for her to grip and it just looks unnatural. I don't know what the point of this is. It also has like the hinge here, like if you gave her a sword or something. I don't know why. I hate it. I wish it was just a fist. And then we have the fist, and then we have two open hands. We have a normal articulated open hand, gesturing hand, and then we have this like palm out effects hand, which does not hinge at all. This is like the old Iron Man hands. It is just a peg there, 90 degrees. There is no hinge. So that is obviously going to be for her shield accessory here, which is a new / adjusted version of the one we've gotten before because it has little bullet marks in it, which is cool. I like that. However, I think there was a really big missed opportunity to give it a pearlescent, there's like that pearlescent sheen, almost like it looks like a bubble. In the movie, it's got this like chromatic effect where it looks like it's affecting the lenses, like the way it's receiving the light, so it kind of has like all these rainbow lines around it and this distortion. I think just making this have that pearlescent like bubble finish that like Lego does sometimes would have really helped make it kind of give that effect. Right now it's literally just a transparent plastic shield, and it's pretty big, which is nice, and it looks fine. Like it looks okay on her. I think it's maybe a little too arced. I think it looks like too much. I wish it was flatter. It's almost like kind of the distance between it and her is a little too close for me. And then if you rotate it, you can kind of find a different, like you can make it like accent her head more and not have like the thing sticking out in front of her eye. But again, to me, this is like the bare minimum. I mean, I'm glad we have it, but again, it's just not that impressive to me. I don't think it looks that good. In terms of the way it's done. And at least if she had like two of them, like so she could do the double shield thing, that would have been cool. Or if, in my opinion, the best Sue Storm accessory is the arm that is sculpted and molded in a transparent plastic but is painted at the top. That gives it like a feather, almost like by the end it's fully transparent. At the top you still have some blue paint. That is my favorite Sue Storm accessory, and also it could pair well with the shield. And that has only happened like a couple times. Again, it happened with the Walgreens figure. And I just would love something like that, or maybe that into an alternate head, which is like transparent but has like, half of it painted. Or even if they supplemented, just being able to have this as her effect piece by having her come with Herbie, or having her come with the additional member of the Fantastic Four that may or may not be in this movie. Would have been a nice way to sort of make up for it, but I just think her accessories are lacking, and I think that and the fact that her articulation is lacking too is pretty much the biggest issues with this figure. And let me show you that lacking articulation now. Her head looks down okay, but the hair fights it, and also you get that gross like gap there, and then it doesn't look up like at all. It can rotate, and you can get the hair to rest on the shoulder there. Of course, the hair here kind of forces the head to look down a little bit, which is a little annoying. But you can get it to rotate and rest on the shoulder, which is nice. It's not fully stuck there. And she does get a little bit of pivot too. Obviously, she has the torso. She has a really solid diaphragm, better than her brother and her husband. So it works better than both of them, which is nice. I think it's just because she has a thinner waist, so it kind of gives it more range of motion. It's not fighting anything. She also does have the waist cut, which is completely useless, especially on her because she is so thin. You really can't get away with much turning before it looks really weird. So probably not going to ever use that, and instead use just the diaphragm. She also does obviously have ball joint shoulders, which go up that far. She has the bicep swivel. She has double jointed elbows, which again work excellently. So happy the female figures finally consistently have double joint elbows. Hers you're definitely going to want both, because that will give you the most the best bend. You could again probably start with this one, but this looks a little weird. That's not how an elbow traditionally works. And then of course she has the hinge on the wrist, and then the rotation, and then the leg kick forward a very pitiful amount. I understand why with her sculpt and her proportions why that happens, but I wish she had drop downs or something to counter that, because that is really bad. Her hips do move all the way out though, pretty good, so she can do the splits like the other figures. Obviously she has a thigh cut, She has double jointed knee, which works great. She has no boot cut, again, but she does have a great hinge, which works really well, or pretty well. Yeah, works really well. That's really nice. And of course, the rocker. So her articulation is a little more limited because of her head and because of her legs. And again, I think her accessories just don't showcase her powers in a very fun way. And that bums me out a little bit. Either way, she's still a solid figure. Definitely not a dud, definitely not bad, definitely not like the bad figure of the wave by any means. Just not that impressive. And here we have him, the man, the myth, the legend, the ever-loving blue-eyed thing, the crown of Kirby's, the king of Kirby's crown, Ben Grimm. I love Ben Grimm. Everyone loves Ben Grimm. Everyone loves the thing. He is such a great character. The definition of a gentle giant. Just truly such an iconic, resonant, important character in Marvel. I don't think he gets enough credit. He's such a great character. Rendered in figure form. Now they went for the shirtless, bootless thing here. So a lot of people are a little confused because 99% of the marketing has shown the thing in a full-on blue suit, just like everyone else. But there is a scene in the trailer where he is pulling a massive boat behind him like Superman, and he's got his shirt off. And most recently, one where he sits next to a dog and he's got his shirt off. So technically, we do get a look in the film of him with his shirt off. However, the thing we have yet to see is a look of him with his shirt off and the dogs out. There is no evidence that Thing takes his dogs out in this movie, because if you watch the scene of him walking to shore, sitting next to that dog, he's got his boots on. Now, I know in the comics he's got the dogs out, but in the movie we have yet to see a proof that he will get the dogs out. So we'll see. When we see the movie, maybe there's a scene where he takes the dogs out or something, but for now it appears that technically this figure is inaccurate, just not because of the shirt, but because of the dogs. So take it or leave it. I will say, clearly the reason why Legends went with this look is because it is the more iconic, comics accurate look. I am partial. I wish he at least had the boots on. I know that's less comics accurate, but I don't really care. And I would love to get a figure of the Thing with the proper, full suited look, the full thing. I think that's just become such an iconic part of this iteration of the Thing that I almost want both options. But I'm not mad about this. I'm happy to have a more classic comics Thing. I think I just want both options, and I think I want him with the boots, just so that he's more strictly accurate. Again, I could be wrong, though. Maybe he takes the dogs out in the movie. So yeah, now the actual design of the Thing, in terms of his proportions, his face, his physical embodiment, this is ripped straight out of the comics. I mean, holy shit. He's got the big-ass Jack Kirby Thing eyebrow that cannot be missed. Oh my god, there it is, the glorious rock eyebrow, the iconic rock eyebrow. Let me get some more light on him here. Yeah. Oh yeah, there you go. Sorry, I just had to blast the light. I just really want you to get a better look at this guy. He's kind of harder to see because he's so big and there's a lot of shadows on him. But yeah, I also want you to see the painted texture on the chest and the arms. I think that is so freaking cool, man. Like, really, that looks awesome. It's so nice that they did that. And it's subtle enough where you can't notice because obviously on the back he doesn't have it. And if I spin him, maybe you'll notice what, like, you can kind of notice. But, like, it's not like there's an abrupt, sudden, obvious change of paint that's on the figure. There's not, like, a line anywhere. It all kind of flows. They did it in a way where it transitions out of the paint in a way where it's not noticeable that there is a difference. Like, if a normal person, you really have to look at it to truly see that, which I think is really nice, and I'm really happy about that. So beyond that, they did a really good job painting the face. It looks fantastic. I will say my only issue with the face is that, and I really wish I could get it closer, but, oh, I guess I can. Hell yeah. My only issue with the face is that mine is a little mispainted. It's hard for you to tell, but, oh god. But his ever-loving blue eyes are a little off, particularly this eye right over here. It's a little higher than it probably wants to be, than it probably is sculpted. Also, there was a line that was right on the top of his lip here, just like a little black line that was clearly meant for the mouth, but somehow migrated up to the top of the lip on mine. That really gave him like this little French mustache look, and I hated it. So I took some nail polish remover and I got rid of it. Because I just could not stand this like awkward thin little mustache on the thing. But there's more on the face there too, you know. He's got some shadows and everything on there. He's got, you know, they clearly did paint it. So I think overall, you know, that all looks amazing. I think he looks amazing for the most part. I'm just really a huge fan of this Thing figure. I think it's really good. And again, technically very comics accurate. You know, very, very comics accurate. Which is nice because, again, I feel like you could use this guy in your comics collection and maybe you could fudge it. Now, the blues won't match and stuff like that, so that's kind of gets tough, but he's really close, you know, really close. So I think he just looks aesthetically great. I mean, you got the 4 there, you got the silver here, just a really great, and it looks like how he does in the movie. And he looks perfect in the movie. The design is so classic. Now, in terms of accessories, all he comes with are different hands. He comes with open hands, right? So I will pop and swap them real quick just so you can see them. I'm really happy we have them. I think it's really nice to have open hands with the Thing so that he's not always punching, because there's more to him than just punching, you know? I do kind of wish we had a pinky hand so that we could recreate the Thing tasting and discovering that somebody cooked. But oh well, it's fine. Yeah, I think they look good. Again, I would normally complain about the powers more, but kind of like the Human Torch, I mean, just himself is the showcase of his abilities and his powers. Like, he doesn't shoot energy or anything. He doesn't stretch. Like, him in his natural state is showcasing his powers. So to me, open hands is totally enough. You know, also, he is not a deluxe figure, man. This guy is a retail, you know, normal $20 figure, $24 figure. And especially when you can see how much bigger he is, you know, than in just terms of mass, like so much more mass there. It's kind of incredible that they managed to release a figure this high quality, this size at that price, especially given the way that a lot of prices are rising right now. So I'm super happy about that. So let's talk about the Thing's articulation real quick. So he's got a hinge on the neck. Actually, no, he doesn't. He's got a dumbbell neck. So he's got 2 ball joints in the neck and in the head. So he can look up that much, which is pretty good. He can look down that much, which is really good. And it gives him a ton of pivot, which is great for the Thing. It adds a lot of expression, which I think is a big part of his character. He's got ball joint shoulders, so they go up about that far. A little limited by the rock sculpt, but not really, and it still looks good. Obviously, they go all the way around. He's got I'm so grateful. He has a bicep swivel, even though he doesn't technically need it because he has this joint. I think the bicep swivel is still really important because anatomically, that is not how your arm bends. Your arm does not bend at the elbow. It bends at the upper shoulder, at the bicep. It twists. So your bicep would never remain forward while your elbow spins. It would move like that. So I'm so happy we have that option. I think a lot of figures, like, I'm okay with the single jointed elbow if it means that it can get 90, which he can totally get 90. And if we get a bicep, so that we can actually get proper atomical twisting on the arms. This looks awful and very toyish. He also has a wrist swivel, and he has a wrist hinge, and they did sculpt inside the hinge some rock. That goes for all of the joints on the rock surfaces. Again, just to reiterate, the bicep goes to 90, and it's totally perfect. Works perfectly, in my opinion. Does have a diaphragm joint, which moves really far side to side, really far back. Not so far forward, but I've been tipped off by my buddy Renzo, where if you rotate it this way, and you have the back on the front and the front on the back, you can get it to bend forward much more. So that's kind of nice. And now there is an obvious paint difference here, but if you're having him crunch forward, you can't really see that. So that's a nice little trick that I learned, and that adds a lot of fun to the figure. Obviously, he has the waist swivel, again, especially useless on him because it's so apparent that that's not, it's breaking the figure up. Legs kick up probably more than all the other figures in the wave, which is embarrassing. It's kind of sad for them. This is a great kick for the beefiest guy. They also kick out really far. He does have a hip swivel, which is nice, right above that right above that 4 logo there. And then, of course, he does have double jointed knees, which work great. Totally get the job done. Little ugly on the inside there, I won't lie. And then he has no swivel, once again a bummer, but he does have a nice ankle pivot, which doesn't spin forward too much, so that's nice. And an ankle hinge, which works really well going back. Not so good going forward because he does have that cuff there. So yeah, pretty great articulation on the thing for such a big guy, honestly. Like, moves as much as you could possibly ask for. I guess some butterflies would have been nice, but I am more than satisfied with the articulation on the thing. So now I'm going to go look at all of the figures together, and I'm going to compare them to the Fantastic Car. Okay, so here we go. Here we have the first family all together, and we also have them with the Fantastic Car. Now, I did show them together at the beginning of the video, so you got a good look there. They obviously look great together. They obviously are meant to be together. That is what you want to do, and they look great. They make me so happy, so classic, so consistent yet unique with each figure, and most of their powers are really well represented here, except for Sue Storm, of course. And I'm so happy. I'm very, very satisfied with this. And again, there's really no reason to get these guys unless you're going to get all 4 of them. Maybe you can get away with just getting Human Torch and putting them in a comic shelf, but aside from that, you really want all of them together. That's what makes it really justifying getting all 4 of them. So yeah, now I'm going to move them out of the way because I'm sure you're curious about this Fantastic Car and what the deal is. If you aren't aware, this Fantastic Car that you see right here is actually a popcorn bucket from Regal Cinemas. Regal Cinemas is a theater chain around most of the world, around most of the US at least, not the world, my mistake. And they do these popcorn buckets quite often. Popcorn buckets have sort of become a weird cultural thing in the last few years. You may have seen the Giant Galactus one already, but the one that I was really after was this one, because I wanted to do this. I wanted to see if it scaled properly, or at least good enough with the figures where I could put them on display with the Fantastic Car, because the Fantastic Car is from the comics. It also has this dope new retro-futuristic design that really brings the look of the movie to life. And yeah, to be completely honest, it is slightly undersized. It's probably made more for 5-inch, scale roughly. But again, it's a popcorn bucket. It wasn't made to be with a 6-inch scale in mind or anything like that. It wasn't way cheaper than the big-ass Galactus head, which is $80. And yeah, I think it looks fantastic. It's got all this chrome, like vacuum form vinyl material on it, which really makes it look really nice. It also does have a fair amount of paint, as you can see here. There is the Fantastic Four logo right there, which is nice. And that also carries around the back. Fantastic Four logo right there. You'll have these like turn signals painted, which is nice. And then even on the bottom, you've got these silver dots which are painted, and the wheels are painted. So, and then of course Fantastic Four first steps here and everything. Now, because it is chrome, you can see a ton of fingerprints on it. But again, overall, in my humble opinion, I think this thing is awesome. I'm super happy with it. It does open up, if you're curious. It does open up like that, and you can fit all the figures in there and close it. Kind of got to shove some of them under here, but obviously there's no chairs or anything in it or any design work because it's a popcorn bucket. It's not a toy, it's not a model, it just happens to look really good. But yeah, with that being said, let me bring everyone back here. The Fantastic Four movie figures are finally hitting us for this brand new Fantastic Four movie. I am so excited for the movie. I am so excited for the Fantastic Four as a whole, as a brand. It seems like this adaptation really gets the spirit of it across, and these figures really capture the spirit of the adaptation across. So I think these are solid figures. I think these are really good for movie figures especially. And if you are at all thrilled or excited about this movie and you collect figures, I think these are a great investment for your shelf. They look great together. And if you want to go crazy and buy a popcorn bucket for it, go ahead and do that too. Be a weirdo freak like myself. But if not, I totally get it. Well, that's going to be all for today's review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a good day, and I hope the movie is I hope you guys are just as excited for the movie as I am, and I'll catch you in the next one.